Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jaya Vallabha Giridhara Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Yamuna Tira Balachari Yamuna Tira Balachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jaya Vallabha Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Shri Gauranta ki Jai, Grantaraj Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So thank you, dear devotees, for joining this evening. It's a very beautiful Sunday evening, and you took out your valuable time. Instead of enjoying outside somewhere, you're enjoying some spiritual bliss here and seeing the beautiful darshan of Shri Gaurnita, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, Srinathji, and of course, taking the association of all your fellow devotees and like-minded spiritualists. So this evening we'll speak on the Bhagavad Gita. Title is Working in Krishna Consciousness, Making the Connection Every Day. How can we connect with Krishna on a daily basis, not just on Sunday evening from 4 to 6, but beyond that, you know? Because right now it's very obvious we're trying to make a connection. It's very obvious. But the moment we come out, it's not that clear, and we get bewildered sometimes how to make the connection, whether we should, whether it's appropriate to do in a certain way, what we like to. This is a very interesting topic that Srila Prabhupada is very nicely and clearly presented in his purport, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Bhagavad Gita chapter 5 verse number 10. Brahmanyadhaya karmani Sangam tyaktva karoti ya. Lipyate na sapapena. Padmapatram ivambhasa. Brahmanyadhaya karmani. Sangam tyaktva karoti ya. Lipyate na sapapena. Padmapatram ivambhasa. You would like to recite? Prabhu? Brahmanyadhaya karmani. Sangam tyaktva karoti ya. Lipyate na sapapena. Padmapatram ivambhasa. Brahmanyadhaya karmani. Sangam tyaktva karoti ya. Lipyate na sapapena. Padmapatram ivambhasa. Ladies, Mataji. Brahmanyadhaya karmani. Sangam tyaktva karoti ya. Lipyate na sapapena. All right. Anybody have any clues from these words what we're talking about? Papena, what do you think that means? Sin, something to do with sin. Padma patram, a lotus. Padma is lotus and patra means leaf, like that. Brahmani means spiritual. Sangam means connection or joining, like that. Anyway, you get some idea of some of the words and images that are coming in your mind. So when a spiritual teacher teaches something that is very abstract or hard to understand, they use analogies. Srila Prabhupada used lots of analogies, like understanding Krishna is like the sun, the three levels of absolute truth, just the light and then the sun disk and then the sun God himself. Like that, there's analogies. Does Krishna use analogies in Bhagavad Gita? Yeah, this is an analogy. He uses them all the time. Krishna directly uses analogies. Padma patram ivam bhasa, just like the water on the leaf of lotus. He's not really talking about lotus. He's saying just like that. That's an analogy. You can also be free from sin. So it's interesting, right? Let's explore this very beautiful topic. Okay. So I'll read the translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Right? One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. We can see in this picture, the lotus leaf is being touched by water, and yet it is untouched. Amazing. Right? So it is possible for us to do that. Krishna is inviting us to do that. He's inviting us to understand the concept of how it is possible to live a life of performing your duty. And duty means staying alive is a big part of duty. A big part of staying alive is eating. A big part of eating is cooking. A big part of cooking is grocery shopping. A big part of grocery shopping is pulling out the credit card. And a big part of having a credit balance is to go out and work. I mean, the whole thing is connected. Okay, so these are our duties. How do we connect that and still remain unaffected by sin? We are being touched by sin everywhere, left and right, even if you don't want to. Just like this leaf is being touched by water all the time, but doesn't get wet. That is the science of applying Krishna consciousness to our daily life on a working basis. Purport, Srila Prabhupada says, Here, Brahmani means in Krishna consciousness. The material world is a sum total manifestation of three modes of material nature. Technically it's called Pradhana. The Vedic hymn Sarvam Etad Brahma, this is Mandukya Upanishad, says Tasmad Etad Brahma Nama Rupam Annam Chajayate. Mundak Upanishad says, and in Bhagavad Gita 14.3 it says Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma. Krishna is now indicating that everything in the material world is a manifestation of Brahman. Everything. And although the effects are directly manifested, they are not different from the cause. That's a very hard to understand sentence. We'll explore that, okay? That everything is coming from Brahman. So in one sense, everything is spiritual. That's the point. In the Ishopanishad, it is said that everything is related to the Supreme Brahman or Krishna. Everything. And thus, everything belongs to him only. Anybody know which verse that is? Yeah, which number? Verse number? Verse number 1. Ishavasyamitam, everything belongs to Krishna. And that he is the proprietor of everything, and that therefore, this is the $1 million jewel that you take from here. Because everything belongs to him. Therefore, everything is engaged in the service of the Lord, and that naturally has nothing to do with the results of his activities, whether virtuous or sinful. Even one's material body being a gift of the Lord, his body, for carrying out a particular type of action can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. Of course, that's the whole point of this body. It is then beyond contamination by sinful reactions. Exactly as the lotus leaf, though remaining in the water, is not wet. Prabhupada continues. The Lord also said in Bhagavad Gita, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya. Resign all works unto me, unto Krishna. Resign means give up all these works to me, surrender your work to me. The conclusion is that a person without Krishna consciousness acts according to the concept of material body and the senses, but a person in Krishna consciousness acts according to the knowledge that the body is the property of Krishna and therefore should be engaged in the service of Krishna. That is a big difference. It's a huge difference. Service of my selfish goals or service of Krishna. Okay, so purport ends here. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This is a prayer where we are bowing down to the spiritual master. I offer my obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, who has opened my darkened eyes and filled my heart with transcendental knowledge. So one who performs, this is the translation, who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. How many have actually seen this phenomenon? Have you actually seen a lotus? Just raise your hand if you've actually seen this. It's pretty cool. It works with lotus leaf. It also works, I've seen, with this elephant ears. Have you seen elephant ear leaves? Have you seen patra? Like wheat does make those patra rolls. So if you just harvest a patra leaf and you put water, it has the same kind of behavior. So the water droplet will fall onto the leaf and will just roll off, like a ball rolls off the floor, right? The leaf remains magically dry, even as the water is sitting on it. That's actually quite amazing, because if it falls on this cloth, it'll just soak into the cloth, it will become wet. And then it'll take at least some minutes to dry off and you see the water there. But here, it's not like this, rolls off. So what phenomenon allows this to happen? And only with certain kinds of leaves, not all the leaves. Some leaves will just get wet. This particular one, it doesn't. They did some research on it, actually. All right? And they found, you can see here, this is some of the microscopic image that they took. So the surface of the lotus leaf has a hierarchically rough structure. The surface, if you look at it microscopically, it's not smooth. It is rough, but it's hierarchically rough. You see, it's shown here in the image B and C over here. And the way those little kind of, dimples on the leaf, they're structured, it discourages wetting. And the tubules are made of wax. And even the wax has a chemical composition that discourages wetting. It is hydrophobic. There's hydrophilic and there's hydrophobic. So hydrophilic will hold on to the water, hydrophobic will push the water out. So it's a wax that contains what's called nonpolar methyl groups. Those of you in chemistry, you might understand this. So this nonpolar wax does not favor the interaction with water. So you can see this leaf is deliberately designed to function in water without getting wet, because becoming wet will interfere with the main function of the leaf, which is to collect sunlight and turn that into sugar and food that the plant can use with the chlorophyll. The water messes with it, at least for this particular one. It makes it more efficient as a leaf. So similarly, if we know what is our goal, our function with this human body, which is belonging to Krishna, and we want that to be more efficient, more effective, then we don't want to be constantly wetting our consciousness with this mud of sinful reactions and sinful actions and sinful tendencies and selfishness. What is sinful? Sinful just means acting on a selfish basis, that's all. There's different flavors and categories of sin, but ultimately it boils down to me enjoying selfishly for my pleasure. Forget about other people, forget about God, doesn't matter. For my pleasure, selfishly. That's called sin. We don't want to be influenced by that consciousness, that mentality. That is papena. So what does Krishna say? He says, Lipyate na sa papena padma patram ivambasa. And purport, Sri Prabhupada says, everyone's material body being a gift of the Lord for carrying out a particular type of action can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. Then what happens? It becomes beyond contamination by sinful reactions, exactly as the lotus leaf, although remaining in the water, is not wet. So it is possible to be in this world, to be engaged in working in this world and still be beyond contamination of sinful actions. It's a very important point, and it's actually very difficult to do unless we have a clear understanding of the goal of Krishna consciousness. The goal of Krishna consciousness is not difficult to understand, but sometimes to apply it in a life can be confusing. Therefore, we need to read about the subtleties of how it works and how it doesn't work. And Krishna gets into that, and Prabhupada expands on it. So that's why Bhagavad Gita reading is very important. So how exactly, that's the question, how exactly can I be this beyond contamination by sinful reactions? The moment I step out of my bed, I start accumulating sinful reactions. Everything I do, right from the choice of the soap that I use to wash my face, to the breakfast that I'm going to eat, to going to my office job, the way I deal with my co-workers, the day I do my actual actions at work, and then how I interact with my family and my friends when I come home, and how I conduct my business if I'm a businessman, even how I file my taxes. I mean, everything has a reaction. Some reactions will be pleasant, some reactions will be unpleasant. But reaction will certainly be there. And reaction means contamination. And what happens when you get contaminated? That contamination leads to more and more reactions and actions. And it increases our misery in this life and prepares a more miserable next life. And that is how the vicious circle of action-reaction happens. So how can I place myself? So Krishna says it's simple. You give up the material and take up the spiritual. Give up material, selfish activities, take up spiritual activities. So Krishna says, okay, you start doing spiritual things. But what is this spiritual that you're talking about? Everything I see in this world is matter. Where is spirit? Even my own body, I don't see anything spiritual. What to speak, my clothes and then everything, other people, that they're just bodies moving around. Some of them are alive, some of them are dead. Some of them, I don't know if they're alive or dead even, but they're there. But what I see and what I hear and what I smell is all matter. So all I can work with is material. And you tell me I'm not this body? How can I act on that understanding? What is the spiritual concept you're talking about? Is it some kind of like ghostly thing that's inside my body? What is the spirits? Is it something that haunts the house, only that's spiritual? No, what is spiritual? What is material? Now, Srila Prabhupada, he explains in the purport, right, that everything is a manifestation of three modes of material nature. But then he also says that everything comes from Brahman. He explains how actually everything is actually Brahman. All this, even so-called dead matter, is Brahman. Even in this world, what we see is actually Brahman. Sarvam khalavidam Brahman. Everything is Brahman. Everything is spirit. So now it gets even more confusing. Wait a minute. Then what is anything material then? What's going on? On one hand, you said, you got to differentiate between material and spiritual, and then part of the purport, you said, Sarvam, everything is a spirit. What kind of, I'm really confused now, isn't it? Is anything material then? How do you distinguish? What am I missing here? So, what is it that makes something material versus spiritual? Prabhupada explains that difference in the purport here. In the Ishvara Upanishad, it is said, everything is related to Supreme Brahman or Krishna, and thus everything belongs to him only. One who knows perfectly well that everything belongs to Krishna, that he is the proprietor of everything, and therefore everything is engaged in the service of the Lord, and has naturally nothing to do with the results of activities, whether virtuous or sinful. The person in Krishna consciousness acts according to the knowledge that the body is a property of Krishna and should therefore be engaged in service of the Lord. So what is it that makes something spiritual versus material? How it is engaged, how it is used. You offer it to Krishna. Exactly. That's exactly right. How you engage something. This microphone can be engaged in talking nonsense. So then it's material. The same microphone, if I use to sing the holy name of Krishna or recite Bhagavad Gita, then that is spiritual. It's no longer material. Therefore, Sarvam Khalavidam Brahma means everything comes from spirit. But what turns it into material or inferior energy is the application or the use. What is it used for? That's why even the body of a pure devotee is not considered material. It's considered a spiritual body. Yes. It's not that only the soul of that devotee is spiritual. The entire body of a pure devotee is considered spiritual. Therefore, the acharyas, when they pass on, we consider the body still spiritual. We don't do cremation. Srila Prabhupada was not cremated. Put in samadhi, we say, samadhi. So, what does that make something spiritual? It's the consciousness and the application of that understanding. So, you can be working as an office worker. Here you see some images, right? An office worker or construction worker or a teacher. Here you see the teacher is teaching young devotees to how to farm, or just a farmer, or a doctor is a doctor over here. He's a devotee doctor. Or you can be distributing books. You can distribute spiritual books. That's like very obvious spiritual service. You can be a pujari. That's even more obvious spiritual service, like directly serving the deity. If we do this work, any of this work, selflessly for the sole aim of pleasing Krishna and being detached from this sense of ownership, that this is mine, these are my accomplishments, this is my possession. Generally, possessions we can say, okay, yeah, this house is Krishna's. But my qualifications, oh, that's mine. I got a degree, I got a PhD. No, even that we offer to Krishna. It's actually all Krishna's. Without Krishna's energy and blessing, I could not have gotten this PhD or master's degree or this job or this position, recognition. That's how a devotee sees. Detached from a sense of ownership and offering that work, that consciousness to Krishna. This offering has to be to Krishna. Not that, I'm doing it just for my family, so I'm not selfish. That is also selfish because that's an extension of my own body. If you do it for Krishna, only then it is not selfish. No, I'm doing for my town or my state or the entire country. Even then it's selfish. If I'm doing for US, that means Canada. No, forget about Canadians. Those guys, everybody knows they're lazy. But we, why not Canadians? Well, I'm American, so forget about Canadians. No, again, that is extended selfishness. But when Krishna is the goal, that Krishna is the father of everything and everybody, then is ultimate selflessness. You cannot go more selfless than being Krishna conscious. Therefore, we have to be purifying ourselves. Our biggest enemy in everything we do is selfishness. That's all. You can step out of that. The whole Bhagavad Gita is to teach us how to train ourselves to pull us out of selfishness. When Krishna uses the word kama, it's translated as lust. But what does it boil down to? It boils down to selfish enjoyment. So, what is it that makes something material versus spiritual? We already talked about that. So the work should be done selflessly without any motivation for personal sense gratification. That's one. It has to be done with a sense of detachment. So I'm not doing it for myself, and the idea that this is mine, I should give that up also. So there is no sense of false ownership because it doesn't belong to us. And third thing, which is really important, this is what makes the essence of bhakti. Purposely to please Krishna. The goal of offering a flower to Krishna is so that he's smiling. I want him to smile even more. I want him to be pleased with this service. My Lord, this pleases you. You say you like me to offer flower. Please accept this flower. You like me to offer some water. Please accept this water. Please accept this offering, this food. The aim is to please Krishna. And then fourth, we want to develop our own love for him. Because we have love in our heart for Krishna, but it's not fully developed, it's covered up. So Srila Prabhupada says we should be 24 hours Krishna conscious. 24 hours, how many? You've read this many times, right, Prabhupada? We must be 24 hours Krishna conscious. Is it possible? How is it possible to be 24 hours Krishna conscious? Or 24 hours anything for that matter? It's not possible. Is it possible? I mean, why is he asking us to do something that's not possible? If he says 18 hours, you should be Krishna conscious, that is actually somewhat within reason because you sleep 6 hours, What about that 7 or 8 hours on sleeping? Okay, don't count that. 16, 18 hours maximum Krishna conscious. So is this 24 hours demand? Is this some kind of poetic expression that is impractical? Can it be really applied? Is it possible to be 24 hours in love with Krishna? 24 hours Krishna conscious. This is a question, yes or no? Yes, I hear yes. Okay, how many people over here feel that they are 24 hours Krishna conscious? But it's possible, in theory. But how is it possible if you're sleeping for 6 hours? Or 8 hours? I'll give you an example. The mothers in this audience, those who are mothers, those who have children, they can tell you that being a mother and being 24 hours in love and 24 hours a heart filled with affection. Not only is being 24 hours in love with your child possible, it is unavoidable. It is impossible to not be 24 hours thinking of your child. Fathers, maybe 5-6 hours enough, but mothers, mothers know the deepest desires and aspirations and feelings of the children completely. And fathers, they're vaguely aware of some little people running around the house. There's a big difference. Mothers really have love for the children. So I know this for a fact because I saw when our son Madhav, I remember he was very small like this as a baby, and his mother, so they would sleep on the same mattress, and in the middle of sleep, his mother would, she'll be sleeping literally, like gentle snores, and then, Madhav, make sure he's there. In the middle of the sleep, she will say Madhav and put the hand. And you've seen this is not only 1 or 2 families, every single person, no matter which country you're from, what language you speak, the mothers do this in the middle of the night. She's deep in sleep, but amazingly, her love is so deep that she can't help but keep checking on him. If this is possible in this world, certainly when we develop enough affection for Krishna, who is really our goal of love, then we can indeed be 24 hours Krishna conscious. Not only is it possible, it is unavoidable. You can't help it. That's the stage we want to be, and that stage, it's not, it may seem difficult, but it's the most natural thing for the soul. It's the most natural thing, and therefore the simplest thing. See? Now, we may ask, okay, how can I jump to that level of Krishna consciousness and selflessness and all that? Right? This is the question. Okay, fine. I understand the concept. It's possible to be so much affectionate love for Krishna. He's very beautiful. His stories, his pastimes, how much love he has for us. It's very sweet. I love to hear about it. I would love to offer things to Krishna. But how is it possible to jump to that level of Krishna consciousness? Right? So Krishna says, gradually. शनै शनै रूपरमेद बुद्ध्या धृति गृहीतया आत्म संस्थम मन कृत्वा न किंचिद अपि चिंतयेत. He says gradually, step by step, one should become situated in this trance, this Krishna consciousness. So even Krishna recognizes it won't happen in one jump. He says shanai shanai, right? Step by step. And thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone for self-realization and should think of nothing else. So we can work at it. So what are these baby steps? These gradually baby steps that we can take. What are these steps? 1, work for Krishna. We do some work. There are different ways to work for Krishna. Like so many of our devotees, in addition to their regular professional work outside, they also come and do a lot of seva in the temple, or they do seva in, say, distributing books, or they chant Hare Krishna and they learn more, develop their own. So you do some extra work, put some extra effort, you know. Even something simple like maintaining the temple website, you know, it's not difficult to do, but you need some work. You know, something simple is coming and doing the pots. By the way, tonight is my pot washing seva. I'm not joking. Today is actually my pot washing seva. So if anybody would like to help, please see me after the class. Okay, 6:30 we're going to do pot washing. Some of our team members, I don't think they showed up today, so I'm just going to ask some. So anyway, but this is how you can do some seva. All right, so you can see me at 6:30. Practice the process of bhakti yoga. What is bhakti yoga? Chant Hare Krishna. How? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's the basic concept of practicing bhakti yoga. And then, of course, we read, we hear, we come and attend the services and do some service like that. But think of Krishna as often as possible, even at work. Right? Even at work, you can think of Krishna. I mean, like, no, you know, at work, if I don't think fully focused on my work, I mean, Krishna thought come in the middle, it could kind of, you know, I won't be fully there for my work. I'll not be fully efficient. It's true. I mean, it's very, very valid. I mean, I'm a computer engineer. Have to make sure I have all these things, requirements have been gathered. Then I do QA testing, and then I can move to development, QA, and then production, and DevOps. So many things, you know. And then, where am I going to think of Krishna? Right? That's a concern. But honestly, how many times are you, so focused in your work that you do? Maybe 10% of time you're actually working. The rest of the time, either you're looking on Facebook or wondering what's going on, daydreaming. If I had more money, what I would do with it? Naturally, right? So instead of occupying those intermediate moments when you're daydreaming or wasting time, think how wonderful Krishna is. Let's be grateful to Krishna. It's very easy to be grateful. Yeah? So think of Krishna even at work, between things, when you're looking away from your screen. Every now and then you should look away from your screen. It's good for your eyes, you know. Then you work at getting better in a chanting process. There's always room for improvement in chanting Hare Krishna, always. Then you plan our life, like long-term plan for your life. You know, most of us have a long-term plan. At this age, I should be here, and when I retire, I'm envisioning I'll be living here, and I'll be doing this kind of. So plan your life to gradually move the balance to simplicity and deeper Krishna consciousness. Don't plan your life to make your life more complicated. Bigger and bigger palatial buildings, more and more finer cars. If your goal of life is to have 7 houses in different places in the world and have 5-car garages, that's a goal for many people, and they actually achieve it. Many of them do. But for those of us who want to be spiritualists, if we plan for simpler life and situations that can be more conducive for deeper thinking, that's more beneficial for us as devotees. And then Share with others. When you share the good fortune of Krishna consciousness with others, no matter how we choose to share it, our own good fortune increases. You see? If I have $100 and I share with some of my friends, my $100 decreases because I have a little bit. But if I found something valuable, Krishna conscious, and I share with others, then my own bank balance of Krishna consciousness increases. It's magical how that works. Right? Share with others. So how do you work for Krishna? We all have to work. We cannot stop even for a moment. So then you can do actual direct service for Krishna, like I mentioned. We're building our temple here. There's bricks, right? If you see a temple, the bricks already been laid. So that part don't come for bricks because that's already done. Also, it's a liability. It can fall on your head. But you can give some of your fruits of labor to that process. We still need to raise about $1 million for that project. We raised $5-something million. So anything you want to give, it's always appreciated. This project is ongoing. We are planning to finish it by the end of this year. Beautiful temple. You can see it over there on that poster. Very close to being done. Become part of it. Give some fruits of your labor to Krishna. A little bit or more. Doesn't matter. In Bhakti Yoga process, start chanting. You do japa. You do kirtan and dancing like we were doing earlier. You can engage more in hearing these lectures of Krishna consciousness. Hear Srila Prabhupada's lectures. Hear lectures of his disciples and so on. Read his books. Read the books of Krishna consciousness. Come and serve the deity. You can see devotees come and offer. They're offering fruits and just leave it there. It gets offered to the deity. It's a very wonderful way. And there's many, many more ways to serve, to engage in Bhakti Yoga practice. Think of Krishna. Make it a practice. First thing upon waking up, smile and think how beautiful Krishna's smile is. The last thought before sleeping, read a little bit of a Krishna book, his pastimes, smile about it, and go to sleep. You'll have good sleep and you'll have a good morning after. And everything in between. Find some ways. Even at work, we talked about this. You'll be happy. And then work at improving our japa. So I've given classes on this before. There's an entire seminar on this that we have. You sit properly, you focus on the sound, you set aside the time and place for chanting properly. Early in the morning is the best. You absorb your mind and you give your feelings and your heart to Krishna. You do all that for Krishna, you'll get a lot more out of the practice of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And then you plan our future, increase absorption in the practice of Krishna consciousness. Develop aspirations, but positive spiritual aspirations. Plan your life to gradually move the balance to more Krishna conscious. Make a practical long-term plan. You know what is practical. You know what works in the country that you're in. You know what works with your job that works. Whatever works practically, but aim towards simplicity, simplifying, and more clarity of thought, more time to engage in Krishna conscious spiritual activities. Share with others. So one way of sharing with others is just invite people to come and gather and have either at your home you have some session where you discuss Bhagavad Gita, Kirtan, or you can invite them to our festivals or to our temple and so on. Give encouragement to anybody who's starting out. Anybody who's starting out and has any interest, let us give encouragement. Why? Because the world out there is discouraging enough. There's so much discouragement in the world. At least in the spiritual circle, we should give encouragement. Let's not cut people down. Let's give them as much encouragement as possible. Try not to discourage anybody. And we want to set a good example for our children. How many people's children here listen to everything they say? No, right? Nobody raised their hand. Nobody's children listens. It's true. Children do not listen to what we say, but they watch carefully what you do. Even though it looks like they're just playing with crayons, but they're looking, they're hearing what you do, and they're absorbing. So if we are happy in Krishna consciousness, even though we may not be fully advanced, we may not be fully knowledgeable, but if we are enthusiastic about becoming more Krishna conscious, our children will absorb that enthusiasm, and that'll become the foundation of their life. Enthusiasm is contagious. Yeah, that's how we set a good example for our children. And it is said, always preach. Preach means give Krishna consciousness to others. Now this is funny. Always preach, and if necessary, use words as a last resort. What does that mean? It means preaching doesn't mean yap, 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 like what I'm doing necessarily. You don't have to go out every street corner and no. Just be a good example of Krishna consciousness, a perfectly behaved gentleman or lady. And smile and be happy in the fact that we have Krishna in our lives. We have Krishna in our lives. Then people may be curious, and then you can gradually, softly share. That's how you preach. If necessary, use words. So festivals are a great way to share. We have so many festivals coming up. What's the next festival coming up? Before that? Yeah, see? So you should at least know which ones are coming up. Festival is a great way to share. Why? Because the heart is moved by positive vibes. Festivals is a saturation, it's an explosion of positivity. And then when they experience it, the soul in each heart will dance. They won't even know why they're so happy. It pulls us out of depression. It raises us above it. I've mentioned this many times. The word sav in Sanskrit means depression or sadness. Utsav means it pulls you above. Like uttama means takes you above the darkness. So tama means darkness and uttama means the highest or pulls you out of darkness. Similarly, sav means sadness and utsava pulls you out of your sadness. No matter how depressed or sad you are, we have every reason to be sad, but we have actually many more reasons to be ecstatic because we are related to Krishna and Krishna is ours. You've just forgotten it. So upcoming festivals, Snan Yatra, June 19th. Okay, here that's a Sunday, that's next Sunday. And then on Saturday, July 2nd, we have Jagannath Rath Yatra in Parsippany starting from, you can see these photographs. Look, these are, I'm not making this up. This is actually photograph captured. We captured an image of our own devotees experiencing ecstasy. They're going to explode in ecstasy. You can see these Matajis like, wow. And look at this cute Jagannath and Baladev Subhadra. And of course, it's so sweet. It is so much fun. And this is just 5 or 6 Matajis out of the 1,700 people who attended. Okay, it was such a wonderful look at this. That's the crowd that attended. The hall capacity, we kind of went over the capacity of the hall. So this time we're not going to do it in this hall. We're going to do it in an outside park, which can hold thousands of people. So it's hopefully a lot more fun. Even the mayor came. This is from last year, So how do you share? We have some cards outside. Okay, we have stack of cards outside. Please take them. Take 5, 6, 10 cards that you want and seriously distribute to those who you really think, they'll like to come. Please just give them out. 4 or 5 devotees from our temple cannot give out thousands of cards. It's all in your hands. So please share them, to invite. And this is how you share Krishna consciousness, right? So I hope that, you got a good overview of how we can bring Krishna in our lives, in our working lives, apply our consciousness properly and share with others. It's very good for our own soul and it's great for everybody else. There's no loss, there's no diminution, and the whatever credit and benefit you get will be to your eternal benefit. Right? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Anybody have any comments or questions? We can have another couple minutes. Yes, Vandana Acharya Prabhu.
The thing that always confuses me when we say something can become spiritual matter just by the way it's used. Like it's made of molecules and atoms and its material energy. How can it all of a sudden switch its energy to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this microphone stand is actually made of molecules, atoms, and so on. So how can it change its constitution just by the way it's being used? What makes it from material to spiritual just like that? It's a very good question. Srila Prabhupada actually gives an analogy to explain that concept. Electricity is a flow of electrons through wire. It's the same electricity that's flowing through your wires and my wires. And you have AC unit and you also have heating unit. The same electricity powers the AC unit and the same flow of electron powers my iron that I used to iron my dhoti. But in one instance, it makes it super hot, and the other instance makes it super cold. But the same electricity. So the point is, the electricity is the same, but how is it being utilized? What is the mechanism? That's just a crude analogy, but the point is the goal of using that energy, you see? So if it's directed to the air conditioning unit, then it is a coolant. Electricity becomes a coolant. And if it's directed to the electric heater, then it becomes a heating agent. Same electricity. So similarly, it's just a crude analysis, not exact. This will always remain made of atoms, molecules, etc. Under the microscope, it will not look any different whether I'm talking Krishna consciousness or I'm talking nonsense. It will not look any different. But the consciousness by which this gets, or say the categorization of whether we can consider this spiritual, is dependent on how it's used. You see. Why? Because of this, I'm able to reach many more people. If I have a sound system and 10,000 people can hear my lecture, because of this, I'm able to touch 10,000 hearts, which would not be possible without this. Okay. So therefore, this falls in the circle of spiritual. Now, actually speaking, everything is, this is Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, because everything comes from spirit, right? So the root of this is actually Krishna. This matter also comes from Krishna. So the only thing that makes this inferior versus superior is how it's used and what is the aim of use. Usage makes it inferior, superior, that's all. So the categorization of spiritual as material has nothing to do with the atomic structure. It is something to do with how it is used and what it accomplishes. That's all. Therefore, it's not a physics or chemistry-based categorization. It is a utilitarian or a philosophical understanding of categorization. That's all. So we should not conflate the two. But it's a good point. It can be very confusing. Thank you, bro.
It's chemical composition or organic composition doesn't change, but if you do energy spectrography, the way the material is used, it will give a different
Aura.
auric,
Aura, yes.
It is different. It's the way the molecule vibrates, and
Yes.
it has been scientifically proven.
Yes.
The way the molecule vibrates is different. But the water offered over here and
Yes.
water other places, why water is offered as that? Because water has the greatest capability to observe the vibration in all the things. So that is why water is offered, so that you get those vibrations.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, that's true. That's why people who eat prasadam, they will feel that this is different, even if it's a cookie. What is special about this cookie? I've never tasted a cookie so good. And they don't, first time they taste prasadam, wow, it's outstanding. They don't even know why it's that. But it has a positive vibration. It's such a high level vibration.
The way the molecules orient itself,
Yes.
that's what changes.
Yeah, but scientists can't.
No,
Yeah.
because
They don't look for that. Yeah, exactly. They don't have the instruments.
What you do, if you see that the magic, like the yogic, they take a flower, some different flower, and make it smell like rose. It's not a rose. What they do not do anything. They know the science that what molecular constitution does that smell. The fragrance comes from that energy and how molecules constitute.
Yes.
So they changes that through there. So they know
Yeah.
that certain
Yeah. So it is very subtle, which is why we don't see it very easily. Modern scientists won't be able to capture it, but it has a very real effect. That's why the water that's offered, the food that's offered to Krishna, you will feel its effect not just on your consciousness. Of course, you'll feel in consciousness, but actually your body will respond more positively too. It's healthier in a physical way, definitely. But yeah, it's a great science. It's a good point. So everything is Brahman, but how you apply it, how you offer it to Krishna will change its vibration and its frequency and make it super spiritual. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Haribol.